Have you ever started to cinch up your horse only to find that you land on a completely different hole than normal? And you kind of have this like stomach drop feeling of realizing that your horse's weight has changed right before your eyes and you didn't even see it coming. It's happened to the best of us. But today I'm going to be talking to you about how to evaluate your horse's weight in a really objective way to help you kind of assess whether or not your horse's weight is a concern that you need to then address with maybe a nutritionist or your veterinarian, and how to go about that little system. Hi, I'm Ruby. I'm a whole horsemanship trainer, and I'm also a certified equine nutrition consultant. And that means that I work with people both on their horse's nutrition as well as kind of overall health and wellness concerns. And today I'm going to show you the actual system that I use for body condition scoring. Also, make sure to check your inbox if you're on my email list, because there's a really handy worksheet there for you that is going to help explain this in a lot more detail than I can do in this video. And you can use that to follow along. And if you are watching this in the future or you're not on my email list, don't worry about it. You can join with the link below and you can still get that resource right now and you can follow along with the rest of this video. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe and join me on this journey. Every weekend I post a bite-sized, what I call horsemanship snack, something that you can do in just a few minutes to help deepen your connection with your horse and to help you enjoy your horse that much more. Today, we're going to be talking about your horse's weight. And before we jump into the actual body condition scoring, I do want to just talk a little bit about why your horse's weight is so important. So, of course, a horse that's underweight, we're really concerned about their energy and caloric needs, and this can be really hard on all of their body systems. But a horse that's overweight, is actually very concerning as well. I'd really like a horse to be ideally right in the middle. A body condition score of 5 would be amazing on every single horse, but I tend to be a little bit more concerned about the horse that's just ever so slightly overweight than the horse that's just ever so slightly underweight. The reason is because horses that are a little bit overweight tend to be a lot more prone to metabolic issues, including Cushing's disease, laminitis, which can lead to founder, and they also tend to have a lot more wear and tear in their joints. Horses, if you think about their body is built horizontally this way, and they're kind of like a suspension bridge over these little spindly legs. And that creates a lot of pressure on their joints. And when we put them through athletic maneuvers, jumping, cutting, roping, reining, whatever, like you name it, any of the things that we do with our horses for fun, we put a lot of stress on those joints, and all that extra weight that is on their belly, especially, but the middle of that suspension bridge, can really add a lot of strain onto their joints. I heard it said recently, I'll see if I can link below the study about this, but I heard it said that in humans, every 1 pound of extra weight on your body exerts up to 9 pounds of force on your joints, which is quite a lot when you think about it. And it's because of these kind of lever arms that we have. And I don't know what that equates to in horses, but I just think about those really tiny little spindly legs and all that lever action and how much extra force that is on their joints, just any extra amount of weight. If you have a concern about your horse's weight, you can always reach out to an equine nutritionist or your veterinarian. Equine nutritionists cannot diagnose anything, so a vet is really your first call if you're concerned about any health issues related to their weight. But if they seem overall healthy and you're just wanting kind of a different opinion, or you want to make sure that they're not eating too many or too few calories by a large enough amount, and contacting your kind of local nutritionist is always a really good idea. Okay, all that said, let's now talk about how we're going to analyze our horse's weight as objectively as possible. I also do want to say too, there is a filter on this that everybody's going to have their own sort of idea about what an ideal horse looks like. Some trainers, you'll notice their whole fleet of horses is a little on the thin side, and some you'll notice even the same breed, they look a little rounder. And there is some piece of this that really is kind of subjective and up to each individual person, and it's within a reasonable range. It's hard to say that any one particular approach is necessarily right or wrong, but this is as objective as we can possibly be by giving this a number score. And then the other thing too to consider is different breeds are going to look different. So a draft horse is going to present really differently than a thoroughbred. And so just running it through that filter as well, what kind of horse do I have in front of me here? And then remembering that as you're going through these numbers will be really helpful. Okay, here we go. So if you look at your worksheet, you'll notice that there are 6 different body parts that we're going to be looking at. And then there's a scale of 1 to 10. And you're going to be picking on a scale of 1 to 10 for each body part, which description fits the best. So for example, the first body part is the neck and crest. And a score of 1 would be that you can actually they're very sunken in there. You can see potentially bones or muscle, and they're just completely sunken. And that's like an extremely emaciated horse that's like starving to death on, death's doorstep. And so we want to definitely be very careful in that situation. If you have a horse that's anything like 3 or lower, is definitely like immediately call your vet, and we need to be figuring out what's wrong with this horse. And even if it is just truly a starvation issue, there needs to be a very careful refeeding protocol followed to make sure that we're not causing other secondary issues by doing what we think is right and just giving this horse a bunch of food, but what's actually going to end up triggering other problems. Then right in the middle of that spectrum, you're going to see the horse that has like a nicely muscled neck and is going to have just like kind of a thin layer of fat potentially. And we're especially when you're looking at the crest, which is right where the mane comes out of the neck, it should be just straight up and like kind of lean and muscly. And then on the other end, the like extremely obese horse is going to have big fatty deposits on the neck. It's going to be hard to see the muscling, and there's going to actually be kind of a flop over where the mane is because there's so much fat up there on the crest that it's like can't stay upright and it's flopping. So that's our neck and crest. And then we're going to do the same with the withers, the shoulder, the rib, the rump, and the tail head. And we're going to go through all 6 of those and assign a score from 1 to 10. Again, 1 being severely emaciated, 10 being incredibly obese. And we're going to hope that our horse lands somewhere between 4 and 6 on most of those. Then we're going to take the average of those. So that means you're going to add all 6 together, and the worksheet will help you with this. If you're not great at math, don't worry about it. You're going to add all 6 scores, and then you're going to divide that number by 6, and that's going to give you your horse's overall body condition score. We hope that it averages out between 4 and 6, with 5 being like the ideal perfect horse. If it's less than 4 or over 6, it should just flag your attention. And if it's under 3 or over 7, definitely call your vet immediately and figure out what is up, because there's probably something you need to be addressing with their health. That said, we also want to think about muscling as separate from fat. So if you're concerned about muscling in your horse, if they come out with a body score between 4 and 6, but you're like, they still look kind of sunken and I'm not quite sure, it could be more of a muscling issue or a top line issue, in which case you're going to want to watch my previous videos, which I will link as well here for you so that you can go back and watch those. And that's all about the top line, which is completely separate from their fat and body condition score. And then just a couple other helpful resources. I do have linked below my Build Your Bucket workbook, and that is completely free resource for you. It's going to help you kind of just with the broad strokes overview of basic equine nutrition. We go over forage, which should be the bulk of your horse's calories and should be about 1.5 to 2% of their body weight per day. I have all that broken down in a really great, simple way in the workbook. And then we talk about grain and concentrates. We talk about supplements. We talk about treats, and we also talk about water. So all of that is in that Build Your Bucket workbook. Again, it's not like a definitive source, but it will kind of give you broad strokes to at least alert you if you're really off somewhere. Super helpful, and I highly recommend checking that out. Also, if you have questions or concerns about your horse's health, always just defer to your local veterinarian and or your local nutritionist to help you work through some of these issues, because there really is so much that is case by case. And that is dependent on how much your horse is exercising and their age and their breed and your climate where you are, and like what's kind of notoriously deficient in your hay where you are. And so really like working with your local professionals can be really, really helpful there as well. If you found this video helpful, I would so appreciate a like and subscribe. And if you would just send it to somebody else that you think might also find this video helpful, because the more awareness we can spread about this, the more horses we could help. And that is always the root of everything that I do. And next weekend, I'll see you back here for your next horsemanship snack. Best of luck, and make sure to hug your horse for me.